So bye, Mr. Luis Arraez. I don't know the second line yet, but he's gone.
Breaking news from the Twins. They traded Luis Arraez for Pablo Lopez from the Marlins. There was also some other players involved in the deal. Cole, I know you were saying that you didn't think we needed pitching. So what do you think about this trade?
Yeah, I mean, we always need pitching, but I didn't feel like giving up Luis Arraez felt like the right move unless you're going to get a pitcher that's better than all the other pitchers on your pitching staff. And I mean, he might be. It's yet to be determined, but he's an above average. He could be good. There's some stats that show he's maybe a little underrated. But you're giving up a batting title champion, the Minnesota Twins. My former favorite player, still one of my favorite players, even though he's not a Twin. I don't know. It's a tough day. It's a sad day, but I'm trying to be as optimistic as possible.
It is very sad, and I think you can ask literally any Minnesota Twins fan, how do you feel about Luis Arraez? And they will all have the exact same thing. I don't think there's anyone that hates Luis Arraez. You know, he's a style of play that's kind of gone extinct in today's game, and you know, it's just cool to see guys play like him. You know, and it is sad seeing him go, but I think any pitching help right now is really what we need. So I'm not totally opposed to the move. I do agree that we probably could have got a little more, but you know,
there were other players involved in the trade. So what do we know about that?
Yeah, I was just trying to look up their exact names. We got Pablo Lopez, obviously right-hander, and we get him for both this year and next year before he becomes a free agent. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Twins try to lock him down for long term if he does well this year. But we also got shortstop Jose Salas and outfielder another Byron. Oh, look at that. Chiro? Not exactly sure how to pronounce his last name. But I think Salas is their number 5 prospect in the Marlins system, I believe. So we got some talented bats that are prospects that we're going to see come up within the next 6 years, which really feels like the Twins window with Correa and Buxton here for 6 years together.
So I guess, rate this offseason then so far. I mean, we ended up getting Correa back after all that drama. Like, how have the Twins done this offseason? It seems like these are like the only 2 big moves so far. So
yeah,
I mean, probably
Alex. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I'd rate him a B-. I think we have made some steps in the right direction. Getting back Correa was really big. You know, obviously this Lopez deal adding to the bullpen, but I don't know. I feel like besides these 2, it's been awfully quiet. There hasn't been much aggression in the market by the Twins, and I've been a little underwhelmed at the peripheral signings. You know, the not so flashy ones. I feel like that's where we've kind of lacked on this offseason, but again, have made some splashes, so I'll go B-.
Yeah, I feel like that's a pretty fair grade. I lean towards about a B- too, I think. But it feels like me that we're still like midterms of the offseason. It feels like this offseason has gone crazy fast, but we're still not even to catchers reporting. That's still a few weeks away. So I think there's still more that's going to happen. We still got to trade another outfielder. There's a lot that's going to go down. It's not over. Like, being at a B- right now is because of the fact, in my mind, that we missed out a lot early, that we could have gained some extra points to our grade, but we have time to make some moves, and they're clearly showing that they're ready to make moves. But this doesn't feel like a one of those trades where it seems like when you trade a player who's a batting champion that you're kind of giving in, that you're maybe rebuilding. That's the way I think some outside teams and outside analysts may look at it, but we are not rebuilding with this trade. I think this is a trade where the Twins were like, look, we haven't done the best with building prospects and pitching in the last few years. We need to find somebody that can come in who's an established player who clearly has been underrated. He had like a 500 average or a 500 record last year. He's better than that. Pablo Lopez is a good pitcher. I don't know. It feels like a move they're trying to make to fit what our roster needs. And Arraez, sadly, just as much as he fit in that batting lineup, and it was amazing to have an on-base guy and have all this, if you really look at it, he didn't totally fit in defensively. We have a lot of offense. We have a lot of pieces. And if there was a guy to move, I guess it was him. And they showed that, but
Definitely feels more like retooling than rebuilding.
that's a good way to phrase it.
Yeah, looking at like his stats from last year, like his ERA 3.75, he had 174 strikeouts. Like, where do you think he's going to fit into the rotation?
I mean, I think you still. I don't think he's opening day. Like, I think he's still up there. He could make his way to being, if we make playoffs, he could be our game one starter in playoffs by the end of the season. But because he's not established on the team, I think still you've got Joe Ryan, obviously, Sonny Gray, Tyler Mahle. I think all of those guys are there. And you have Pablo Lopez that slots in with them. And any one of those four guys could be our number one by the end of the season. And then you got some other guys like a Bailey Ober. You got Kenta Maeda coming back. Some of those other guys that are going to fill some of those other five, 6 spots. But now we have kind of, it feels like a pretty good core 4 that can hopefully put some innings on them. Let's have our little Luis Arraez funeral. I don't know if anyone else has a favorite memory, but I have to say, by far, one of my favorite baseball memories of all time, just from a baseball fan perspective, was when Luis Arraez, and if you remember this, let me know, but he came in to pinch hit for Jonathan Scope against the Mets, against Edwin Diaz in the 9th inning, and I don't know what the score was. We were down 2 outs, and Scope had just gotten 2 strikes on him on like 200-mile-an-hour fastballs. Like, the game was looking like it's absolutely over, but then Scope got somehow on the swing. He injured his leg or he injured his shoulder. I don't know what it was. He had to be taken out of the game, and they had Luis Arraez, young Luis Arraez, back in 2019, come in and pinch hit for Scope with down 2 strikes in the 9th inning with 2 outs against Edwin Diaz, who was the best closer on the season that year, throws 101, just lights out. And somehow, after like 10, 12 more pitches, Luis Arraez drew a walk from an 0-2 count and kept the game alive. It was like every pitch of that at bat had me on the edge of my seat. And it wasn't a playoff game, it was just a regular season game, but it was one of my favorite at bats I think I've ever watched. It was just a straight out battle. It was amazing. That's my favorite Luis Arraez moment.
That is like the definition of what Luis Arraez is. He's just a grinder. He's a tough out. He goes up there and just battles at the plate. And I think I can speak for everyone in saying I'm going to miss watching him do that every day.
And people talk about he didn't have power, but I mean, he found power when he needed it. Last year, I think, didn't he hit a grand slam at one point? He had a couple pretty clutch home runs. Like, he only had a couple home runs, but they were in moments that you kind of needed a home run, and he did it. So, I don't know. It's so sad. I want to stay optimistic, but it's like, come on. Of all the guys on the team, like when we traded Donaldson, like everybody's like, yeah, that's great, awesome, Any guys that I can't think of any player that has been traded that half the people that texted me weren't like, yeah, I like it or I don't like it. Every text I'm getting from all kinds of people right now is like, what is happening? How could they trade my favorite player? Everybody. Nobody's like, oh, thank goodness Arraez is gone. He sucked. Yeah. He was at his peak. So maybe we got peak value for him. That's yet to be determined in my mind. I don't know.
Do you think this trade would have happened if not for Correa coming back?
No. If Correa doesn't come back, I don't think this trade happens. I mean, I think they discussed it prior to this, but I still think if Correa didn't come back, they would have been in a tight spot. They would have had a hard time competing. If anything, this trade might have happened not for Pablo Lopez, but for more prospects, for a rebuild for a year or two, rather than a win now situation with Correa and Buxton, everybody on the team. I'm not saying Arraez wouldn't have got traded if Correa didn't come here, but I don't think we would have got a win now type pitcher, which is what Pablo Lopez is. I mean, his name with best ERA in the National League since 2022, 2023, he's right up there with the big boys. I mean, he's ahead of Kershaw, Gosman, Urias, Alcantara, Adam Wainwright, Musgrove. Like, he's ahead of all those guys. There's not a lot ahead of him, and he's got a really good WAR. I mean, he's legit. If you watch some of his pitches, they got a lot of movement on him. Fun fact: I've actually interviewed.
I'm
Pablo
getting
Lopez.
mixed signals from you, but all right.
I know. That's how I feel today. Today is like a complete day of mixed signals. Like, I like to see the Twins making moves for pitching. That's what we've all wanted. Everybody said we need pitching. Every fan is like, we need pitching. We need pitching. Classic Minnesota sports fan, right? Now we trade for pitching, and everybody's like, well, not Luis Arraez for pitching. So I'm trying to stay positive and think that somebody out there is smarter than I am and not trading with emotion, because emotionally, as a human being, it's hard to trade Luis Arraez. And seeing him like practice with Nelson Cruz, it's just like it pulls at your heart. You're like, he is a special player. He's an amazing guy. And Cruz loves him. Like, he's gone. He's no longer a Twin. And it makes me sad. I'm going to try to go to the game. Do we play the Marlins at home this year? I wonder. Otherwise, I'm going to Miami. I'm going to watch Luis Arraez one way or another play a game this year. I promise. Promise you. One way or another, I will watch him.
All right. Well, is there anything else you wanna add about Arraez
I was just looking at someone like
or Lopez?
Yeah, so just on contract stuff, I guess, is one other thing to kind of think about. At first, I was like, all right, well, Arraez must be like a free agent next year. Like, I don't know. I was kind of thinking that. But when you look at it, he's not actually a full free agent until like his age 29 season. He's 25 right now. So it's like 3-4 more years of arbitration. So his value, I think he got $2.5 million at arbitration this year. So he's going to continue to go up in value as long as he hits well and does well. And those comps still are there. Where Pablo Lopez, we just get this year and next year. So the Marlins are getting multiple years, 4 years of Luis Arraez, maybe 4 years of Luis Arraez, and we get 1 to 2 years of Pablo Lopez. So not sure how I feel about that either, but Arraez just didn't plug into the defense. That's all it is to it. He didn't make sense. He doesn't make sense at first base. He doesn't make sense at second. Like, you either DH him, but it's hard to use that DH spot for a guy that doesn't hit bombs in today's game. It's just the way it is.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's, I'll say it again. No one's happy to see him go. He's an absolute joy to watch, and I will be right there with you, Cole, going to see another game.
Yeah. I hope Miami comes to town. I was trying to see if I could look that up, but I don't know. We may have to go down to the Marlins game, but...
Oh, shoot. We got to go down to Florida. Oh.
Yeah, we can go to Miami. We got a few people we can stay with there. Alexa, I'm talking to you.
All right. Well, Arraez is out. Lopez is in. We'll see how it all works out this season. Don't forget, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter and all that. At Hot Dish Sports. Go Twins.